to the Carson City School District Board of Trustees meeting. And we'll go ahead and start with agenda item number 1. This will be adoption of the agenda. This is for possible action. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion from trustee Varner, seconded by trustee Roberts. Public comment? Seeing none, motion to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 2, this is the flag salute, and this will be trustee Tatusi. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, this is the superintendent's report. This is for information only. Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Wald. If you didn't know, school started, which is really exciting. I did an informal survey of every student in the district, and 100% were excited to be back at school. So that was a really good number to work with. We might have to audit that here in the future, but lots of great events, welcoming families, welcoming students back at all of our schools. Just great to feel the energy, see the kids, see the smiles. Even at Carson High School, I saw some smiles, those older kids. But just really grateful for a big thanks goes out to our custodial maintenance, grounds staff, getting everything ready for the school year. It's the summer just is not enough time, and they are trying to cram everything in that they can, but having everything ready, everything looking good. So thank you to all of them for making that happen, and looking forward to a great school year. And, sorry, we have a special guest. We have the 2025-2026 EduStaff Excellence Award winner as the Nevada Substitute Teacher of the Year. And we have 2 representatives from EduStaff here to help us give that honor.
Yes, please, and then make sure that the microphone is on green. And if you would, state your name for the record.
Heather Smith with EduStaff.
Spencer Molden with EduStaff.
I think you hold it.
No, you just have to press on it and you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and continue. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So EduStaff is proud to recognize Roswell Allen as our 2025-2026 Nevada Substitute of the Year, and he is with us tonight with his wife, Tabitha, right here. So just...
Would you please come up, Roswell?
And just a little bit about how we do these awards. So each semester we do something called an Excellence Award, and that is where we have teachers, NEA school admin are able to submit nominations for substitutes who they want to recognize for going above and beyond and really helping their school community thrive. So each semester we choose 2 winners, but at the end of the year we go through all of the nominations that we've received and choose the one that has just stood out amongst them all. And we received 4 separate nominations for Roswell throughout the school year. So he was for sure the most nominated substitute and very deserving of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and share a little bit about what some people said and just giving our thanks to him. I won't call anything out, just general. In just 1 year with Carson City School District, Roswell has made an exceptional impact, especially in the special education classroom setting. Prior to joining EduStaff, he served as a state developmental disabilities manager at the Rural Regional Center, bringing a wealth of experience, compassion, and leadership to every assignment. Roswell was nominated by multiple Carson City School District staff members, one at Empire Elementary and all of the rest at Fremont Elementary. So he had a huge fan base there. They shared that he takes the time to get to know each student, understand their needs, and discover what motivates them to succeed. His ability to build meaningful relationships helps students feel supported and empowered. One of our nominators said, he is engaged with every child, calls them by name, jumps in whenever possible, follows the teacher's plans, and adapts when circumstances change. He takes advice from the paraprofessionals who know the students best and works seamlessly as part of the team. He also does incredible work throughout the community. He is simply an amazing human being. Roswell's impact in the ASP program has been remarkable, specifically. He approaches every challenge with patience, kindness, and respect, creating an environment where students feel valued and encouraged to succeed. One of our team members also put it as, "We know the day will be great when Mr. A is our sub." So when asked what he enjoyed the most about substituting, Roswell, I'm going to share what you said. His favorite part is partnering with the school staff to support student success. And his advice to new substitute teachers would be to take the time to learn each school's culture. And when possible, work consistently at those school sites to better understand those students' needs and support systems. So as you can tell, just from even his responses, he is truly a remarkable person and very deserving of this. So again, congratulations on behalf of Edu staff and Carson City School District. We're very happy to have you on the team. And
Thank you very much.
we also have a trophy and a little bonus check for you.
And before we do that, would you like to say a few words?
Is this on?
It
this working?
is.
Okay. I just have to say that, especially at the Fremont School, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without the support of the aides. And the reason I go back there as much as I do is because it does feel like a family atmosphere. And so they've been very welcoming and can't wait to get back. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we will go ahead and take a photo.
Yes.
And so at this time, and then will you go down there with Dan as well? Mr. Davis, you'll be taking a photo. If you'll come up to the center here, and then the board will stand behind you, and we'll get a photo.
Yeah, there we go. All right, perfect. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
And if you will, we'll probably all have a few words to say. But first and foremost, congratulations, Roswell. I've worked with you in the past, and you are your humor, your sense of humor, your outlook on life. I am just so pleased that you have chosen to take your retirement and bring it into Carson City School District. We're extremely lucky to have a substitute like you. And I did see you at Fremont one day, and the kids are extremely fortunate to have you around because everywhere you go, there's always a smile to your face, and that is sometimes what students need the most. So thank you for choosing Carson City School District to spend your retirement. Thank you. Anyone else?
I just say thank you for loving our kids. I appreciate they need invested adults, and I'm thankful that you're one of them.
All right. Yes, thank you. And thank you, EDGE staff, for doing this. I think it's very important, and I think it's important to do a spotlight on the substitutes that we have. We have a need for them, and it is an important job. And I know that we're extremely grateful, to have the substitutes that we have. And so I thank you for bringing this recognition to the school board and to the substitutes as well. So thank you for the work that you do. You're awesome. All right. Superintendent Fueling, anything else? All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and close agenda item number 3, move on to agenda item number 4. This is board reports, board member comments. This is for information only. We'll go ahead and start with Carson School activities. Do we have our Carson High School representative here today? No? Okay. Do we have our Silver Campus?
I will be reporting for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Ramirez?
Sure. So from Dr. Molden, from the Carson High School Silver Campus, they are super excited to report that they have grown to 98 in-seat students. They have been working under the premise all summer that if they build it, the students will come, and it is beginning to show. Last year, they started and finished the year with only 9 freshmen, so they were asked to increase their enrollment on their freshmen. So as a result, they have 23 ninth graders, 20 10th graders, 28 11th graders, and 24 12th graders. So they did really good in their recruitment. In addition, they brought back the full-time online program to the Silver Campus. All of the teachers who are teaching the EPIC curriculum, which is the curriculum online, they are at the Silver Campus. So in order to promote greater success, they are requiring all online students to be in seat with their EPIC teachers for the first 2 weeks of the semester. The online program currently has 34 students, and it is growing every day. When speaking with them online, with online students about them being on campus, most of them say they're very excited. They like getting all the requirements and expectations straight from their teacher. In fact, a couple of online students have liked being at the Silver Campus so much that they are coming back to in-seat full-time. It has been a joy, she says that it has been a joy to see the campus packed with smiling faces. Another exciting news at the Silver Campus, they are also taking a pilot of bringing back paper and pencil full-time. No student was given a Chromebook this year to take home, which parents have appreciated. However, they do have computers in every building to use for testing or any special research projects. Students are still using their yonder pouches every day, which is encouraging. They are now thinking, having conversations, and problem solving. And she welcomes all of us to go and join them for lunch or just to do a tour on campus to see the excitement of all the students on campus. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. And then Nevada Association of School Boards update. Trustee Varner?
Yeah, briefly, I'll be attending the September 4th and 5th training and meeting in Lovelock, and I'll try to bring back any materials I can for the rest of the board members. And then just final preparations are being made for the December conference, and that's pretty well wrapped up now, so hopefully everybody will be able to make that conference. And that's my report.
Thank you. So then we'll go ahead and start with our school reports. And who has school reports? All right, we'll start.
Well, the Seeliger Elementary Pirates are off to a great start. Seeliger welcomed families back last week during their annual back-to-school night, providing an opportunity for staff to connect with families and build excitement for the year ahead. On August 31st, they're going to launch Paloma, its K-2 at-home reading program. Families are encouraged to participate in the weekly lessons to support their students' reading development and to reinforce literacy skills at home. And Eagle Valley Middle School has also started off great. A majority of their students participated in the boot camp, giving them an opportunity to connect with teachers, learn school routines, and prepare for a successful year. Strong student enthusiasm and participation helped set a positive tone for the first week. Teachers also sent home school expectations for families to review and sign. Establishing clear expectations for academics, behavior, attendance, and school procedures early in the year helps to build consistency between the home and school and supports a safe, respectful, and productive learning environment. Families are encouraged to regularly check Parent Square and Infinite Campus for school updates and for information about their students' academic process. Fall activities are also getting underway with girls basketball hosting their first home game on September 3rd. Cross country will compete in its first meet on September 4th at Incline, and cheer begins in September as well. Families and community members are encouraged to come out and support Eagle Valley's student athletes. And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. From Fremont, we have had a great start to the school year. It's been amazing to have our students and families back on campus. We had a great turnout for our back to school events. We're looking forward to an exciting month of September with School Picture Day on Thursday, September 10th, our annual Fall Festival on Friday, September 11th from 4:30 to 6:30, and College and Career Day on Wednesday, September 23rd. We can't wait to celebrate with our school community. And I just have to give them a big shout out. Back to school went really smoothly. I was really proud of all of the kind faces. I have to echo what Mr. Roswell Allen said, that there's a sense of family there. And it was just so great. The helpfulness, the smiles, the welcoming atmosphere that they have. So great job, Fremont, and look forward to the rest of the year.
I unfortunately kept my summer going and totally spaced it. So I'll have to fix that on the next go around. So no report from me from Carson Middle School.
We surely appreciate your honesty. So thanks.
Mild echo. I'm off my game too, so I did not collect a report from the school, but I did collect a little bit just through websites and media. This Friday, our seniors at Carson High School are having their senior sunrise. For those that don't know what that is, it's a tradition every year. Seniors on an early Friday in the school year, they all get to campus super early, 6 a.m. to watch the sunrise, and then one of their final days on the campus, they all gather together again to watch their final sunset. So they have senior sunrise at the beginning and senior sunset at the end. So this Friday is senior sunrise, 6 a.m. on the football field, free donuts and hot chocolate and juice. And there will also be a food truck there with $10 breakfast burritos. So if your kids roll out of bed at 5 minutes till, they can still be fed. And then the only other thing I have is sports are going strong. Literally hit the ground running. School started Tuesday. We already had some sports competing Friday before school even started. So we've got football and cheer, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls tennis, girls volleyball, girls golf, cross country, and marching band. And all those that have had an opportunity to compete have already gotten to experience the joy of winning. So proud of our athletes and the kids that go above and beyond after school to stick around and enrich themselves in other ways. And it's paying off because we've got some W's in the books on them. That's all I have for Carson.
Thank you.
I have no reports tonight.
Okay, thank you. For Empire, Ms. Virgil reports that Empire is off to a great start. Their back to school night was well attended, and their next big family event will be the Fall Festival on October 23rd at 5 p.m. So put that on your calendars. And until then, they are rocking along with the PLC work and mastering their power standards. I also attended the Debt Management Commission meeting, which was the August 18th. If any of you have questions, please contact me separately if you have questions on the debt management. We are having a special debt management meeting on September 18th to go over the City Hall project. That will be brought to us then. I also attended the Parks and Rec Commission meeting, which was on August 18th as well. That was a busy day. And noteworthy on that was that we voted to approve a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, a memorandum of understanding between Carson City and Muscle Power, where Muscle Power, which is a private nonprofit 501c3, is approaching the city with interest in spearheading the efforts to build a bike park at Centennial Park, which will be a really added plus. Their efforts, those of you who don't know Muscle Power, they do a lot in this community, and they're all volunteers as well. But we did vote to approve that MOU, and so hopefully it will pass with the Board of Supervisors, and then they will get started on the design of a bike path up at Centennial Park, which will be an added plus to that as well. And that's all I had for board announcements. I was just informed that our Carson High School representative is on her way. So when she does come, I'll ask legal counsel, can we just add her in at that point? Okay, so at that point, we'll add her into the agenda, depending on where we're at, because she is on her way. All right, and so that will move on to agenda item number 5, association reports. This is for discussion only. Do we have anything from the associations? Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item number 6. This is public comment. We'll go with any online public comment. Renee, did we have any online public comment?
Yes, thank you, President Walt. Public comment was received from Mr. Brian Alfie. Copies were provided to the trustees and will be included in the permanent record.
Great, thank you. And then I do have 2 signed in, and then we'll open it up. So we have public comment from Sarah Billings. She would like to speak to us about social media for Carson High Basketball Boosters, along with Cody Shelton, who is the president of Carson High Basketball Boosters. Hello, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cody Shelton. I'm the president of the Carson Basketball Booster Program, and this is our first year actively operating as a Carson-wide program and no longer focusing on just Carson High. I'd like to take a second and let you know who is on our board and introduce everyone. Laurel Crossman serves as our treasurer. Nicole Clapham handles our communication. Sarah Billings is our social media manager, and Avery Wyant acts as our volunteer coordinator. Together, we support 6 Carson High School basketball programs, 3 boys teams and 3 girls teams, as well as we are actively trying to support Eagle Valley Middle School in their boys and girls program and Carson Middle School in their boys and girls program. I'd like to take a quick second and invite Sarah Billings to read our mission statement real quick.
Good evening, board members. The mission of the Carson Basketball Booster Club is to support and strengthen the Carson High School basketball program by bringing together families, coaches, players, alumni, and community members. We are committed to providing resources and opportunities that enhance the student-athlete experience, build school spirit, and promote teamwork, character, sportsmanship, and senator pride, both on and off the court.
Thank you, Sarah. There's a couple things I wanted to bring up about basketball in Carson City. Carson basketball is growing at a rapid rate. Carson City is currently home to the largest travel basketball program in Northern Nevada, supporting boys and girls from 3rd grade through high school. The program exists to help coaches develop players over time, players who carry their development into their middle schools and eventually into the high school programs, where the goal is to compete for a state title and give as many kids as possible an opportunity to go to college and play at a higher level. This year, we're launching the Crosstown Classic, a new rivalry basketball game between 8th grade boys at Eagle Valley Middle School and the 8th grade boys at Carson Middle School, set for December 9th. The winning school will take home the new Legacy Trophy that will travel between the schools depending on who wins. This year's Classic is boys only due to coaching and scheduling challenges on the girls' middle school side, but we're looking to expand it to the girls' program as well. A few things about basketball and sports in general. Research consistently shows that students who play sports through their school career benefit in real ways. Student athletes graduate at highly significant rates than their peers, have higher GPAs, and show stronger school engagement and attendance. Sports keep kids connected to their school communities, and that connection matters. Before I close, I want to personally invite every board member here to come join us for a Carson High basketball game. Come check out a middle school game, join us for the Crosstown Classic, or stop by practice and just see how things are going. And mark your calendars for October 10th. We will be doing our first ever Birdies for Basketball golf tournament at Eagle Valley Golf Course. We'd like to have you there.
Thank you.
The one last thing I have is please come down on September 9th, 6 p.m. and see our open gym for the boys and girls programs and see what we're working with.
And
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Is there any additional public comment? Thank you. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Moving on to agenda item number 7, informational presentation. And I'm going to, wait, or did I miss 6? No, 6 is public. Yeah, okay. And this is from Van Wert Bugatti Architects on a potential performing arts center at Carson High School. This is for discussion only, brought to us by Brad Van Wert, Angela Bugatti, not here? Just Brad. And Nancy Moore. Okay, so we're just, Brad, will welcome and thank you for coming.
So, thank you, President Walton, trustees. So, just a little introduction. I guess first, Brad Van Wert has been working with the Carson City School District for
40 years.
40 years. 40 years. So he's done a few projects over the years for us, and has been a great partner for us as long as I've been here, working with us in our capital projects and trying to see if some of our harebrained ideas make sense. This one is one that is a long time coming in terms of bringing it to you to learn a little bit more about I think 3 or 4 years ago, questions about a performing arts center or an auditorium, something along those lines, were brought up, and there was a desire to see what was possible. And so it's a process that has taken some time, but really something that I'm excited that you'll be able to see a little bit about what's been talked about and ask some questions. I think about 8 years ago, you may know the name Sue Kima. She was 2 before Brandon in his role. And Sue had found in her files when she was still working here, a cutout of a picture from the Nevada appeal. And it was a picture from 1972, 71. And it was a picture of the construction of Carson High School at that time, the current building. And underneath in the caption, it said, above is the construction of the new Carson High School. They hope to add a cafeteria, an auditorium, and something else. And like many projects, you end up running out of money, and none of those things were added to Carson High School. So this is something that has been a part of the conversation for a long time. So excited to kind of bring this back, even if it is 50 plus years later. It's an exciting thing. It's a fun thing. There's no action being taken, but Brad can lead us through what they've come up with.
Thank you, Superintendent Fueling. Yes, and pardon the gray hair, but I've been hanging around the Carson City School District for a long, long time. I think our first superintendent we worked for was Bob Scott, way back when. And it is just, we've probably touched every school in the district. We maybe not Corbett, but we did a whole new design for Corbett, and it was never built. So our latest project was the addition to Eagle Valley Middle School. That looks out onto Deer Valley and such. So we've been hanging around for a while. And as AJ said, we were approached to see what we could do with a new performing arts center at the high school campus. And oh yes, please.
I forgot to mention what brought us exactly to this. So about 2 plus years ago, we started a committee of folks, a lot of our performing arts and arts folks, some principals, to start talking about, if we really did this, what it looked like, what would we need? And so finally, once all that was compiled, that's when we brought Brad in to help us out.
Yes, and that committee gave us a really detailed program and manifesto of what this new theater could be. And they were honest enough to do 3 versions and 3 options of this program. And I'm rhetorically using car models. I think they had one, but there was like a Honda, Chevrolet, and a Mercedes. Like Shoot the Moon, or what can we really get when the rubber meets the road, which is usually funding and such. So we did all these studies, and the programming brought about a program that would give us a theater in one respect, but in another, maybe bringing all the arts, the performing arts, dance, drama, musicals, plays, and then maybe even bring music and other elements over into this program and consolidate everything at the high school. But at the same time, making it open to the community so that it reaches out and it becomes a beacon for the community as well as just an educational facility for the high school and others. So that brought us to where we are today. There's about 8 or 9 slides here that we'll take you through. And we thought we would go through this history a little bit and get back into my day when my hair wasn't so gray. But back then, this was the high school. And you can see, I think it was built starting in about 1972. All those white spots there were the high school, and there was actually an asphalt road, paved public road that went right through the middle of the school. And it was actually labeled the Avenue of Knowledge for whatever reason, right? And you can see Solomon on the left, the football field seemed to be in the middle. And anyway, you can start to see how the whole thing has come about. In 1991, and I will admit that I drew this. In 1991, we did a concept study to enclose the entire high school. So the high school is all you can see in blue there. And that Avenue of Knowledge went right through the middle. And as you can see, we enclosed it and put the library in the middle and some other elements, the administration. And if you look at the plan in the upper right, there is the theater. So at that point, 36 years ago, a theater was planned for the high school. And so it's always been a dream, I guess. And it is so heartwarming to see that the dream of this theater could actually happen here. So anyway, that's a little bit of the history. There's pardon the drawing again, but there's a rendering of what that theater might look like in 1991. If we fast forward to 2026, we set up, using the program that the committee gave us, these 4 priorities to integrate and take advantage of the high school and its academic ideas for the theater, optimize its location and its orientation, be community-oriented, and plan for future phasing. So what we did is we basically did site studies in 4 to 5 places. These are 4 of them. And you can see the first 2, site number 1 was over in the northwestern portion so that it could really be community-oriented, but we delete some parking. It would not be within the secure perimeter of the high school and such. And we did pros and cons for each one of these sites. We did 2 or 3 proposals for this one in the grassy area in front of the high school. They played out in different ways. You could save parking, you could orient it in different ways, and it would again really be community oriented, kind of like a beacon to the community from the high school. We even toyed around with doing an addition to the tech center. That big open space could maybe be a theater area. We could build a black box around it and support it in something like that. It doesn't seem to, we thought it was almost like a vacant building, and it's not. It's filled to the gills and totally allocated. And to tear down and remodel and build it, it became really not a viable sort of solution for us. This solution is what we're probably have ended up with. It is on the south end, and it would displace very little parking and would be directly connected to the school on the south end, which is actually where all the arts programs are housed now. And we started to drill down, and we did a whole bunch of options, the Honda model, the Chevy model, and the Mercedes model. And we've kind of ended up, when the superintendent told us how much money we might be able to procure in the future to build this thing, and came up with what I'm going to call it the Honda Plus. And we've been dealing, let's see if we can go one more. Yeah, right here are all the automobile iterations in front of you. The green portion is what we'll call Honda, and it's got all the theatric programming elements with an auditorium theater that can house 600 plus, a proscenium stage, scene shop, costume shop, storage, a cafe. The lobby would act as an art gallery. There would be faculty offices and all the things that would support the theater. If we were to bring in other areas of the arts to this particular building and make it an integral complex, the band room, orchestra, choir, dance area, practice rooms, music rooms would all be included. And then then we'd have a black box, that light blue thing over on the right. Up above that, can't quite read those, but I think there's a lighting lab and some other technical academic programs that would really be integral to the theater curriculum if it were to be built. This square footage totals almost 60,000 square feet. And we're currently doing a theater up at TMCC in Reno. And at today's dollars, it's just shy of $1,000 per square foot. So if we were to just round up and round down, we're talking in that $50 to $60 million range for the Mercedes. When the reality hit, we're saying, well, what kind of really nice theater can we get that would house a 600-person audience with a really great rehearsal room and things of that nature, and have an image that would be a nice architectural gesture to the community from the school. And you can probably see what the idea of where we're coming from as a concept design. And this next and last, here's the program. You can start to see. So this Honda Plus, we'll call it, is around that 32 to 35,000 square feet with all these elements included in that theater building. Lobbies, restrooms, faculty offices. We don't have to dwell on it. And this last slide, and it should be more conceptual in bubble diagrams and such. When you get excited about a plan, the little bubbles become a real plan. And you can start to see that this plan that you see is connected to the south end of the high school, which are those dark lines at the top of the slide. To the left is the end of the tech building. So what this concept would do would be attaching a theater that has a 600-seat auditorium, a full proscenium stage, actual rehearsal room that's the same size as the stage, costume, scene shop, loading dock, the actor's suite with the green room, all the mechanical, a box office, and all that. And it's connected with a big freight elevator that goes upstairs to all the arts programs. So everything can be basically connected. And then there's an interior connector that goes from the south end of the high school building all the way down to the tech center. So all of this would now be inside and within the secure perimeter of the high school. And that's basically where we left it right now. It's about, I think this plan is about 32,000 square feet. You can do the math yourself. There would also be soft costs, entitlements, fees, furniture, FF&E and things. And the way it's going now, this would probably be a capital improvement that's maybe 3 to 4 years down the line, maybe, Superintendent.
Mr. Van Wert, I think everybody, they kind of blacked out when you said $1,000 per square foot.
Yes.
So I'm not sure everyone captured the rest of it. So one of the key pieces of all of this work and why it was so important to have this group of people that actually know this world and know what they're talking about, know what the needs are, and then having an expert come in and do the work of trying to take all that information and make it reality is to get a price tag. Because you can't really talk any more about it until we know what that is. And so this has been a really big step for us to get to this point. And now it can at least, we can talk about it a little bit more intelligently as far as what we can, what we can't do, what we want, what we need, and that sort of thing. So it's been a long time coming. I'm really excited we've got to this point and felt it was, we presented, Brad and his folks presented to the committee back in May before the end of the last school year on all of this work and what they had come up with, and started talking about pricing and just everything. And really it was kind of like, well, what's the next step? And it was at that point, like, we really need to get this in front of the board. You all need to see this. You need to hear about it. You need to be able to ask questions. And so that really is why we're here today, just to introduce this to you. Some of you, if I recall, I know I've been in some of these meetings over time, but just to be able to put this in front of you again, and we're not talking about approval or anything tonight, but just to be able to ask questions, and then we can go back and see what is possible and what is not. So happy to take any questions.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start with Trustee Varner.
I guess I'd just start by saying, I think I've always been a proponent of some kind of auditorium. Concern naturally is price tag, where the money would come from, but I would fully support it if we had the money. And I don't know if there's any possibility of doing a private-public financing or getting some public or private funding to help with the program. Is that even possible?
I think there's lots of possibilities of how to do it. We certainly, and we'll be coming to you here in the near future to talk about bonding capacity that we have. Even in the, is it Honda or Toyota model? I forget the lower model.
I think we're going Honda.
Honda, the Honda model. The price tag is pretty substantial. And it's, by what we can tell at this point, it's probably within the realm of possibility. The problem is it would eat up all of the possible funding and leave us nothing to do anything else. And we have a lot of aging buildings in the district, so that would be a real concern. But we have some people on this committee that are some real go-getters, and they believe that they can make it happen, that there's a real desire to do that. So I think ultimately it's going to be a question of what, when we come to you saying, here's what we think is available, if the board has interest in doing this, that there's some level of commitment to the board, from the board of a certain dollar amount, so that then it's known what the fundraising goal is. And ultimately, it's going to be millions and millions and millions of dollars. There's not really any way around that.
Well, I guess the other concern is if it's $32 million in today's dollars, 3 or 4 years, it's going to be, what, 35, 36 million? You know, I mean,
Cost index.
yeah, it's,
It
we all know
hasn't
that,
gone.
I like
There will
the
be a day.
concept.
We just don't know when that is.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, but I support the concept, just the caveat is the money.
Trustee Peters?
Thank you for bringing this to us. I, as well, am very much in support of it. I was a theater kid myself, and I raised one who is very active in theater, and that's our happy place. The community center theater has been our home. My kid was raised there, and so it's brought a lot of value to our life, and I think it's something that, as a community, on the youth theater level, we have 2 very robust youth theater programs that operate just as community programs, and if we had a more more space to house them as they continue to grow. I would love to see the theater program. It's a strong program right now. We have great staff. We have great kids that are excited to be a part of it. And just the ideas that you have on here of expanding what is offered, I love it. The arts are so valuable. And so I'm very much in support of this. That, yeah, loose math, 32 million is a little scary, a lot scary. And so there are definitely concerns about that. My only other question, well, I guess my only question, because I haven't asked one yet. Logistically, parking, can we afford to lose that much staff parking? And in a theater with a capacity of 600, those cars, we would just be utilizing the parking on the far opposite side of campus with its placement?
Yeah, the site is challenging because most of your parking is to the north. And one of our studies had it on that site, and that takes away parking. So logistically, we picked where we would take away the least amount of parking. And at a full house of 600, you're probably looking at 150 to 200 cars that could happen. One thing we've done, if you look at the drawing, that interior corridor is connected to the front of the high school. And that's the Sacred Lawn area, but there is parking on that side that we could use. So we think this is the most beneficial area for the theater without jeopardizing the least amount of parking. But parking will always be a challenge, especially when it's open to the community for those big days. And we did hear about these, the youth programs. I mean, Carson High has, if not the best theater program in the state, if not the country, with no theater. It's amazing what has happened. And now it's becoming hard for drama and theater to book dates at this community center because it's busy with things. So to have an academic facility to teach in and offer to the community would be the sweet spot, we think, for this kind of a theater.
I say this jokingly to many people, and I don't know it's true, but I feel like Carson High is the largest high school in America that doesn't have an auditorium. It's pretty incredible to me that we have 2,200 kids and we don't have an auditorium. And what Brad showed earlier, you saw some different placements for this idea across the different parts of campus. And a lot of people, it seems obvious, this big green space out in front and where you could put something there, and it's kind of this showcase thing. And really, number one was kind of the same thing. That's taking up a significant portion of student parking up there. But again, it could be this standout facility. There are concerns around having a secure campus. There's also concerns around one of the issues we have right now is when events are happening here at the community center, there's a lot of needed transportation of instruments, of set materials, all that kind of thing. And if we had it where it was not attached to campus, clearly it's closer, but you still have that transportation that has to regularly happen. And so that's where option number 4, or at least something connected to the rest of the facility. There was another option we were looking at, I think, Brad, if I remember, on the kind of near where the gym is, but just kind of the other corner of it. So it'd kind of cover up the current entranceway on the student side. But the thought was that since all of the arts classes are on the south side of the building, it would make more sense to actually have it on the south side. So there's not as much transportation distance going on.
Mr. Fielding, before you leave that slide, option number 4 looks like it is going into the school a little bit. What would that be?
Yeah, it
taking the
doesn't,
place of?
let's go back to the plan. I hate it when we just do concepts and they become real. There, you can see that there's about a 20-foot space where it says freight elevator. So that building is not, the theater's not touching the high school. It only comes together where Senator Square bleeds out from into the south. And then there's that interior connector. So it's connected physically indoors, but it's not slammed up against the existing school.
Okay, so it wouldn't,
Sidewalk is.
okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, thank you, Mark. So it wouldn't be, because what is right there on the edge right now, CTE program, it's not welding. Is it welding? So it wouldn't do anything to the welding classroom.
Well, welding's back about 2 classes. That's where the black box is to the very far right.
Could you put your mic on? Thank you.
It is.
Talk into it.
Renee's, okay, can you, thanks.
It is on. It's right there where the black box is. There's a door, that's where the south entrance is, right there.
Okay.
Then the main office entrance for the staff is to the left where that rectangle is. And the tech center's on the angle
Okay,
to the left.
so it wouldn't be doing anything to that classroom?
No,
Okay,
I would say it's possible that there might need to be some adjustments of where we locate things. I think we'd have to dig into it a little more, but the hope is that we wouldn't have to actually make an adjustment.
yeah, this is conceptual. Yeah, once you touch a building, you start connecting to it, that's when there's a problem. And I'm speaking for Brad and I'm speaking for the contractor. The less you touch a building, the better it is. So if they're touching it less just to make a connector, that makes it a lot better. Because I'm assuming that's where the door entrance is, right through there where they're showing the freight elevator. That's where they're making the connection into the existing building. That's where where they have about 7 doors. That's where that is, right there.
thank you for the clarification.
And the parking, I met with our civil engineer today because I talked to Spencer about adding additional parking to help us now up front, so we could always add parking there rather easily. Of course, it costs money out in front, a row, a configuration with that. But I put the civil engineer on hold because we don't know where this would go. We don't want to do that until after this would happen.
Okay. Trustee Peterson, any additional questions? All right, we'll just go down the row. Trustee Roberts?
Yeah, thank you for your work on this. It's really interesting. I think they're very deserving of it. I appreciate all of the various models that you've presented. And I like the connector idea and having that also connect over to the tech center. I think that's really beneficial. Off the top of your head, do you know how many seats the community center holds?
It's about 600.
Okay,
Yeah, so, yes, so it's plus or minus 600.
okay.
We did a study for 1,000 and maybe even larger. I think we did a 500, 1,000, and a 1,500.
Okay.
And the Pioneer Center in Reno is 1,400. So if you start to imagine a larger, probably going to have a balcony and maybe two stories. And that's the Mercedes, right? We're talking maybe a 2-story with 2 levels of academic programs and classrooms, and then a balcony that looks down into a theater. So the thing, it's a mind explosion thing when you start to, like, what more can we get out of this?
Well, I would love the Mercedes.
Yes.
but Unfortunately.
Yeah, we have it in our back
pocketbook would
pocket,
not.
but yes.
Well, and Trustee Roberts, I
yes.
just wanted to add too, so the number 600, it really comes from kind of a base idea of if we could have one entire class of Carson High School be in the theater. So if we said, hey, we want all the sophomores to go down to the theater for some kind of presentation, that you could fit the whole class. And so that, the upper 500s is kind of the number at this point. So that's where this came from.
Great. Is this something that can be like rented out to the community, that sort of thing, where you can collect some of the proceeds to help recoup costs or go to other things?
Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Roberts. Yeah, that absolutely has been a part of the conversation. I feel like, and sort of related to Trustee Peterson's comments, this is something that we really would want to be able to support the youth programs that are around. But there's clearly more, and the facility here is under such high demand. That's where we run into issues sometimes with overlapping schedules and things like that. There's just a lot of demand for having stage space, having performing space. So there's certainly the opportunity to be able to rent that out, and we could structure it so that if any fees, whatever fees would be collected for that could be housed separately, so that it could always be used to go back into this. I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of equipment that comes with this. That equipment is incredibly expensive, and so if we can kind of bank those funds just to always have that as a resource, that would, I think, make sense.
And then if you were to do that, is there a plan for like securing those entrances into the tech center and the rest of the high school so that if there was a public event going on, people aren't wandering the entire school?
Yeah, we would plan for that for sure.
Okay, great. And how many are in the senior class? About.
I want to say there's about 560-ish
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
I think the junior class is a little bit bigger than the senior class.
Okay, that's what I thought. I've heard a want for indoor graduation sometimes, and I was curious on the numbers if that was even feasible, but I think not. I came from a graduating class of 25. It would have been perfect. I don't know how many Carson has, and I'm sorry, I should probably know that, but a little bit bigger. All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you for this tremendous work. And from what if I heard correctly, you guys have been working on this for 2 years, and the planning. That's a lot of time that you put into this. So we appreciate your work, as it was already mentioned. And I'm going to come with a question from a different perspective, recognizing that our student demographic has changed in our district. Do we see that there will be an interest of students, of our existing students, going into theater programs?
So I would say yes. I mean, I think when you look across, going to band performances, choral performances. Actually, we have Darby here. You could speak to your kiddos. There's one of the beautiful things about, I think, the performing arts and sports, kind of the same. It draws a crowd, right? It crosses kind of all sections of our society. So I think certainly, and if anything, quite honestly, I think this becoming like the new showpiece for the high school, I think that by itself also draws some more interest from kids, just being able to see it and see what it's about, and they want to be a part of it. So I think in that respect, it would appeal across the spectrum.
Thank you. And I am all about, giving students opportunities. And so this would definitely be one way to do it. I am a little concerned, I have to say it, being that we are trying to balance our budget. I have a huge concern looking at this as a potential project, since we are still working in, balancing our budget.
And if I could, Trustee Ramirez, too, one of the really important points, and I probably should have started this off given the year we've had, just to remember that capital projects, the funding for capital projects comes from a completely different place than when we talk about our general fund and all kind of our operating expenses. We have funds dedicated that the only thing you can do with them is this sort of thing, or capital projects and things like that. Not that there wouldn't be some impact, like you have utility costs, right? We have to do lighting and things like that, but it's, for the most part, the costs are in another place, or the funding's in another place.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned it. My first thought when you were talking is, what problem are we trying to solve, right? Like, are we spending money just because we don't have an auditorium? But When we talk about the fact that we have to match up our schedules with the community center, that's not in the best interest of our students and our staff and our school, right? We want to have a venue where our students and staff come first, and they don't have to schedule what they're doing around everybody else. One of the things that I am concerned about, again, is because of the cost, and Mr. Fueling, you mentioned it, is the aging buildings, right? Like, we have outdated CT classrooms. You guys know I'm a CT fan. I went to Seeliger, which is a wonderful school, but I'm looking at some of their playground equipment. I'm like, oh, they really deserve some newer equipment and a little bit safer playground sometimes. I'm looking at some of the playground equipment. They're like, oh, the kids aren't allowed to play with that anymore. And I'm like, oh, why is it still here? So just keeping those things in mind as well. Again, if we could have some, multimillionaire come in and slap their name on the building, we name it after them, that'd be great. Just so we could save our funds for the buildings that we do have and renew them as needed would be, pie in the sky. But definitely see the need, right? Our students and our staff should come first and have their own space.
Thank you. At this time, though, if Darby wouldn't mind, I would love to hear from you. I think you sent me an email, maybe it was a couple years ago, about the fact that, we were running into scheduling issues. I hate to put you on the spot, but if you wouldn't mind, I think it would be relevant for the board and for the public to hear from you directly, the scheduling challenges that the Carson High School has with the community center. As Trustee Peterson addressed as well, we have a lot of community into not just the performing arts, not just the drama. We're talking dance, musical theater, band. A lot of our students and a lot of our community are involved in that. So if you wouldn't mind, would you come forward just to, I would love to hear your perspective on the challenges that you have with the scheduling.
Hi, my name is Darby Beckwith. I teach theater arts at Carson High School. I was not prepared to speak tonight. I was coming here to see this wonderful presentation and just to be here in support. It is definitely challenging, the scheduling aspects and the logistical aspects of trying to teach theater at a school that does not have a theater. My colleagues often joke, who would coach football at a school if they said, oh, well, there's no football field, right? So it is definitely difficult. We have run into some instances of being double booked, and our venue dates are given to another organization, an outside organization, which is difficult for our students. And it's frustrating, and it makes them feel like they are not valued members of our school community, which they certainly are. And kind of to address, Trustee Ramirez was asking, what's the need for our student body? Across choir and band and orchestra and theater and musical theater, we had looked at the numbers as the fine arts team. We actually looked at the data, and we're reaching like half the student body when it's all said and done, looking at the numbers. They're coming through our classes and through our programs. And so certainly it's a large enough need for a student body. I don't know if that's helpful or if there's any other additional questions, but please reach out to me if you have any specific questions. But certainly it's really challenging to train our students and to be college and career ready in our fine arts pathways without having the facilities for them to train on and to perform in. And our program really is growing. Our program is thriving. We had a student competing at the National High School Musical Theater Awards this year, which might not mean anything to you, but it's like a really huge deal. And so Carson High School is on the map, and it would be really amazing to have venues and facilities that reflect what our students are capable of. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for the lovely presentation.
No, thank you. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but no, thank you for your perspective, because I just think it's important to note that you are a teacher teaching without a classroom, is really what, at the end of the day, what this has been. I was here at the beginning of the conception of trying to get an auditorium into Carson High and around it, and there was even talk about building it behind the solar panels as well. And I know, it's been out there in the community. And I think it is something that, you know, I think all of us wish that we could have gotten it 20 years ago, when the opportunity might have brought itself forward as well. So the need is there. And so I appreciate that. But that's not without saying the funding. So the questions that I have is, do we know the bond funding that we have available?
So we don't have this absolutely finalized, but we believe that in about, I think, 2 to 3 years that there will be about 30 million that is available. So it's a significant chunk of this. But again, there's just that hesitation with, we have all these other facilities that we need to take care of. And so what can we kind of commit to but still make sure that we have enough money to take care of these old heating and air conditioning units? We just replaced 2/3 of Carson High School, I think, and that was about $9 million.
And that's carrying over to next summer. It's a phase 2. We will finish
right.
next summer as well.
So these things are, the temperature control boxes all across Carson High School. I about fell over. I think it was $1.6 million or something just to replace the little temperature control boxes. There's more to it than that, but in my mind, that's what it was. So again, there's just really significant costs that are out there that we have to be aware of. And so, that will be certainly be a part of the discussion and trying to gauge that. Fortunately, Mark is really has engaged quite often with getting assessments done for kind of future projects and what we need to be thinking of as far as roofing, pavement, heating and air conditioning, and there's some other things. So we at least have some, expert third-party idea of what we need to be thinking about. And so that's certainly going to be a part of the discussion.
Okay. Yes, because when we get those, the capital improvement budget that you bring forward, it would be nice to see kind of like if something has to give, what is giving in order for us to get this done. What else I would like to see though too is, or like at what point and what decision points will you be returning to the board when you're moving forward?
So I think getting to this point, I mostly thought about getting to this point, so we're here. I see it as when we know what money is available and kind of the timing of it, we'll have to come back to the board. We're still finishing up projects from the existing master plan. Those are still on our capital improvement plan. So really taking a look at what we have covered, what is coming. And then I think it's saying, the board, if the decision is to set aside money, that the board says that. And I think effectively at that point, we're then engaging with Brad and his folks to do a lot more work to bring this to life. I think, does that sound about right to you guys? Yeah.
And I'll let Brad talk, but we're like, this is conceptual. I call it crayons. And he needs to take it a step further to engage more people in it, because that might move farther this way or this way, and it might move this way to take it to a next step in drawings, maybe schematic, maybe even less than schematic. And I'll let Brad address that more.
Yeah, we start walking down a slippery slope in a way. There will be a point probably that the board and AJ and Mark would have to determine, how do we deliver the project? Is it going to be all on the district? We're going to pay the full boat, and over time you're going to have to raise that money, either through bonding or whatever. You could then decide, well, no, let's try a public-private delivery where, let's just say it's 50-50, right? So you're obligated for half the costs, and then you publicly raise that money. And we've worked with a lot of nonprofits. You get a major donor, you build that donor pyramid. You have one major donor, whether it's a foundation or a philanthropist. There may be 3 others that can almost match him. And at the very end, you're selling bricks on the plaza or whatever. But if that program could take hold and get some traction, that kind of model probably could work. And what it would do is accelerate the time period of funding the project. At that point, we then can really start to make the project more real, do renderings, involve mechanical, electrical, structural consultants to see what the cost will really be. And then we do renderings that help in fundraising and things of that nature. So there's a point where this either becomes the itch that you kind of scratch or a thorn in your side that you don't want to, that you want to pull out. And at some point in time, and I think AJ and Mark can decide that, hey, there's a viability here on what we can commit to the project. Once that's done, we understand how the project will be delivered, and then we really make a serious, more graphic presentation of what the theater could be for the school and the community.
Thank you, because I think that's what gets frustrating, being not just, on the board, but as a community member as well, is that you bring these concepts. We've been seeing this, and been talking about it since, like you said, 1991. And then, you just, it becomes that, like, something needs to be done. And definitely we don't want it to be, the lower version, because if you're going to do something, I always say, do it and do it right. And so that it can, stand for another 20 to 30 years. And so at some point, that's what I'm, the idea is it's a concept, but you bring it forward to us. So we're thinking that there's got to be something behind it, that we're starting to think that, yes, this is doable. And so, whenever you have those next steps, I would just ask that you include the board and bring it to the board's attention in any way that we can help. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Any additional questions covered? All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. At this time, we are going to bring up our Carson High representative. Thank you for being so patient working through that. And if you will, just press the button for the green light and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruby Rose Bertrand, and I am the new Carson High School Board representative, and I'm excited. Sorry for being late. I got caught up in some other schoolwork, but that's besides the point. So far, we have a lot of athletics starting up. We have girls golf, cross country, boys and girls tennis is playing Galena on the 27th.
Ruby, I am so sorry to interrupt you, and I know this is your first time, and so I really hate, but if you could get closer to the microphone so we can capture all the important information you're giving us.
Okay, starting over. So girls golf and cross country are both starting up. We have boys and girls tennis playing Galena on the 27th, and we have girls and boys soccer playing North Valley on the 26th, which is tomorrow. Football won against Dayton, but unfortunately lost against lost against the Monty at UNR. And volleyball has a youth clinic on September 12th at the high school. So far, I think right now everyone's just getting into their new routines and setting them in stone and just getting used to the new schedule. I've heard mostly positive feedback from the new schedule. Some students don't like the later lunch, but that's a small percentage. Everyone likes having a predictable A-day, B-day pattern. And if you guys don't know, A-days are always Tuesdays and Thursdays, and B-days are always Wednesdays and Fridays, which I think is very helpful with scheduling. And yes, going into further going further into Carson High itself, the junior student council class is starting to prepare for senior sunrise on August 28th at 6 a.m., which is our way of welcoming the seniors and getting them excited for for their senior year. But yeah, and then we're just getting back into our groove. We're getting used to the new schedule. We're setting our routines in stone. But yeah, we're excited for what's coming up for this new school year.
Great, thank you very much for the report. And, I'm glad that you were able to make it to the meeting, so thank you. Did you have a question? Wait,
I don't have a question. I was just going to thank you for your report. You did a great job for your first time. Thank you. And it'll get easier each time you come before us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 8. This is adoption of the CCSD test procedures and security plan for the 2026-2027 school year is required by NRS 390.275, and this is brought to us by Dr. Ricky Mendina.
Yeah. Good evening, and thank you for having me. Ricky Medina for the record. So for tonight's presentation, there haven't been any changes from last year. We're at the end of like 5-year contracts with most of our state vendors for testing. We're also, some of our assessments, like if you think of NWA, we've been doing map testing for 20 plus years, WIDA testing probably for 13, 14 years. Some of our tests we've been doing for a really long time. And so this year, our main goal is to not get complacent, to not make kind of some simple mistakes, to keep our eye on the ball and keep doing what we've been doing. In a nutshell, even though you got that 28-page document, keep in mind that that's only part of like our testing system. So the district has their own test security plan that kind of lays out requirements of things that we have to do, kind of rules and regulations we have to follow. The district has our plan, and the individual school sites each have their own individual plan because they have different requirements. Like Carson High has a room where they store all their testing, so they have a secure room. Another site might have like a secure closet or somewhere else. And in addition to that, like if you think about all of the assessments that we do a kindergarten entry assessment, we do our Smarter Balanced Summative assessments, we do science assessments, we also do CTE assessments. So we do a ton of different assessments. Each one of those has their own like test administrator manuals, their own training materials that we have to follow as well. So last year, the irregularities that we have are kind of par for the course. During the start, I believe it was our WIDA assessment, in Northern Nevada, somebody was calling a bunch of different high schools, making bomb threats. And so over the intercom during one portion of the test, we went into a shelter in place. And so we had a student that was taking the assessment. They continued with their assessment, like they couldn't go anywhere. They continued with the assessment, but that counted as an irregularity. The student score still counted, but it's something that we still had to report to the state. Each year, there's always a student that starts the wrong test. Like when you log into the summative assessment, there's the reading portion, the writing portion, the math portion. Sometimes the kid logs in, they get to the directions, see that they're in the wrong place, and they have to log out and then log back into the correct test. We did have 2 cell phone issues. One of them, the student actually used the cell phone to try to cheat. The other one is kind of the more typical case where usually nobody knows that the kid has the phone. At the end of the test, they're excited. They step out and they call their parents or they call somebody to tell them how they did. Well, because they had a cell phone during testing, that counts as an irregularity. And we did have one vendor that took a picture. There was a technical issue with a problem, like only half of the problem showed up. Not all the answers showed up on the screen. They took a picture so that when they called the helpline, they could share that with them. But after they did that, they realized that you're not allowed to take pictures of state tests. So they deleted the picture and reported the irregularity. The last one on here, tests needing to be unlocked, really shouldn't be an irregularity like that. What usually happens is if there's an internet issue, so a kid logs into the test, it usually happens at the very beginning before they even start, that the internet's not working correctly, they get kicked out of the test, they can't log back in. They have to hunt me down so that I could go in and approve the unlocking. So that happens, this past year it happened less than 10 times. Sometimes it happens more frequently than others. We have no control over that. It's usually on the vendor or the internet provider side. The purpose of test security, the reason why we have this plan is, one, we want to make sure that our results are comparable to other districts, other states, because they're going to be used in that fashion. We also want to make sure that our kids are able to do the best that they can. So when the test vendors work with teachers to develop the test, they come up with like specific requirements for how the test should be taken, what designated supports should be used. So we want our kids to be able to take advantage of those things. And we also want to make sure that the test doesn't get compromised. So these assessments are really expensive to make, so you don't want your test questions to end up out on the internet. The big reminder that I share every year is that the state doesn't allow students to opt out of testing. And there's not really any exceptions to this. And the argument is that if you think about like the instruction that we're providing to our students every day should be as rigorous or more rigorous than what they're doing when they take these state assessments. And so if the student's able to sit through 6 hours of instruction, they should be able to sit through a few hours of taking the state test. And if they're not able to sit through the state test, then the state comes back to me and says, well, then how are they sitting through you providing instruction? Why are we paying you to instruct them if they're not able to sit through the test? And I should have put Dr. Tanya Scott on this slide. At one of our past directors meetings a few weeks back, we were talking about something like kind of like walking the walk. So if I tell all of my kind of staff that being on time is important, and I say that over and over again, but then I'm always 20 minutes late to every meeting, folks are going to like interpret that as I don't really care. I might say that showing up on time is important, but I don't really think that. How this relates to kind of our test security plan, we want our students to do the best that they possibly can. We want to be able to compare our data to other school districts, other states. We want to use our data, get the most out of it that we possibly can. And so it's important, like when you look at classrooms that have a culture that encourages kids to take their tests and encourage them to do well, they tend to do better than classrooms where the teacher shows up and says, oh, this test doesn't count for anything. And that same concept applies to everybody. It applies to our parents at home. If you're putting it in your child's head that it's okay if they try to opt out of testing, or if you say that testing doesn't matter, it has an impact. And I'm not sure if people are aware. I think sometimes we think that like there's some room full of like people that test vendors get together, that's all they do is write assessments and they send them out. And really, that's really far from the truth. All of our assessments, the test vendors get together educators, usually from across our state, that get together, Teachers argue over what goes on the assessment. Teachers argue over what questions to keep. They review the assessments to make sure that they're fair. I was sitting on a panel not that long ago where they were calling a refrigerator a freezer box. Nobody knew what a freezer box was. We don't, particularly not everybody in Nevada uses that term. So the argument ended up happening that that item was taken off the test or that word was changed, something to that effect. And so teachers have a lot of voice when it comes to our assessments. And I also should mention that some of our assessments, I mentioned that like the state has their rules, we have our rules. Some of our assessments were part of consortiums. So like our WIDA assessment for our EL learners, we're part of a 42-member consortium of states and other like provinces that kind of use that assessment. And so what that means is that those 42 states have representatives that go and meet and they talk about kind of best practices for those assessments. And so sometimes they make decisions about how those assessments should be used, when the testing windows should occur. So it's not something that we could just kind of pick and choose what we want to do. With that, any questions, comments, complaints?
Want to start? No?
I just got a question.
Go ahead.
This 28-page document has not changed from last year, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay. I just had a question on page 6, about midway down. It says talking about notification of an irregularity. It says this notification change should be followed until it's not should, it's shall, isn't it? I mean, it is followed, it must be followed?
Yes, I will change that to shall.
Yeah, or must or something like that. All right, thank you.
Trustee Ramirez?
So on page number 7, I noticed that we are still using the word pupils on a variety of sentences. Is that still a word that we use, or is that, for some reason in my mind, I want to say that we're going to stop using that and start referring to our students as students, not pupils?
Yeah, so a large portion of this comes from the language that's used in the state document. So the state, they have a test security plan. And when we use different language than what they use, it creates confusion for our folks out in the field. So whenever possible, we try to mirror that same exact language.
On page number 19, under definitions, I noticed that we have NWEA reading assessment in grades K through 3rd, but I also noticed that we are referring on page 5 to a new assessment, which is NWEA map assessment. Do we not need to add that under definitions?
No, so we use the NWEA map assessment in grades K through 8 for math and reading. The state uses that. They refer to it as the read by grade 3 assessment for K through 3. So it's the same exact test, but we use the full like map version. For them, they only use reading.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
sorry, I probably read this and I'm forgetting now. But just clarification, because on training requirements, so they go through an annual training. Is that correct? Anyone administering the test or like because like at the elementary level, it's just the classroom teacher. So are they going through a training every year on all of the practices and
Yeah,
things?
yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, there's I don't want to say generic, there's like a generic training video from the state that covers like all assessment. And it's kind of like best practices. Like if you were to get a room full of like students together, they would be able to tell you like all the things that are on that video. Because it's kind of like the common sense things, like make sure that the teacher's walking around the classroom, making sure that people aren't talking during the test, that you have like a good testing environment. And so that's all teachers are required to do that. Then you have like each individual assessment. So like our kindergarten teachers right now are doing the kindergarten entry assessment, which is Teaching Strategies Gold. Teaching Strategies Gold has their own like training videos that those teachers had to participate and sign off that they participated in that training before the assessment. And then for MAP testing, K through 8 teachers are doing that. So the test administrators at the school are going to do a training that covers NWEA. And so there's a bunch of trainings throughout the year. If you're teaching at that grade level or you're administering that assessment, you have to sit through that training as well.
Are they being compensated for their time? Is that on their own time?
It's during their working hours.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just had a clarification. On page 6, it says if an irregularity occurs to the site, the test coordinator will have 10 days to perform an investigation. And then on page 16, it states that they will have 10 calendar days. So, is it 10 days or 10 calendar days?
Yeah, I will check that. I believe that it's 10 calendar days. For most irregularities, it doesn't go that far. Like most of them, it's within the day.
I just don't know, though, before we submit it, whether or not we should just reconcile whether it be 10 days or 10 calendar days, right?
Yeah, I would go with 10 calendar days because it's shorter.
Okay, so then we would change page 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so to 10 calendar days. That's all I saw. All right, anyone else? This is an action item. So do we have a motion? And if so, could you make sure to clarify 10 calendar days? So do I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt the Carson City School District test procedures and test security plan for the 2026-2027 school year as submitted in accordance with NRS 390.275 with the changes that were discussed with the 10 calendar days.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion from Trustee Varner, second from Trustee Peterson. Public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and your time. All right, this moves on to agenda item number 9. This is discussion and possible action to approve proposed changes to policy 513, reporting student progress. This is for second reading. This is for possible action, and this is brought to us by Brandon Bringhurst. Welcome.
Good evening, President Walt and members of the Board of Trustees. Bringing this policy for a second reading. You'll see the only change that was made from first reading to this second reading, based on some of the discussion we had last time, was a definition of timely, what it means to post grades in a timely fashion. So as you'll see there, timely means feedback is returned while the essential skills are actively being taught. This allows students time to reflect on their progress, relearn key concepts, and demonstrate improvement before taking an end-of-unit test. So what we wanted to do here was make sure that our policy indicates that the key is that students receive feedback in a manner in which they can act on that feedback and demonstrate their learning accordingly. That's the only change that was made to the policy from the first reading.
Did it capture? Yes, Trustee Roberts?
Just a couple typos I noticed under meaningful on the second line, student strengths and areas in needs of improvement. Should it just say in need of improvement? Take off the S.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
then the last paragraph on the second line, standards or learning targets that is supportive. Is that supposed to be are supportive?
I'm not seeing where you're at.
The very last line.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
And that was it. Thank you for adding timely.
You're
We
welcome.
did have some discussion on the first reading, and so I want to ensure that that discussion is included in what is presented to you this evening. Yes? Those of you, yes?
Yeah,
Trustee Peterson?
I made the request last time in that opening paragraph where it says accurate, consistent, meaningful, timely, and supportive. And timely was the only bullet missing from that list, so I appreciate you taking that feedback and putting it in there.
Very good. All right, so this is an action item. I will call for a motion. Trustee Peterson?
I'll make a motion. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve August 25th, 2026 as a revised date on Policy 513, reporting student progress.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Can I just say something real quick?
Right, just a minute. We have a motion by Trustee Ramirez, second by Trustee Varner. Discussion?
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say that is correct in the last line because the noun of the sentence is system singular. So is singular. So it was written correctly.
All right, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that thoughtful
All right.
discussion. And now I'll ask for public comment. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much for your time. All right, this brings us to agenda item number 10. This is discussion and possible action to approve 2027 legislative session bill draft request from the Carson City School District to eliminate the Nevada Educator Performance Framework, acronym NEPF. This is for possible action brought to us by Superintendent Fueling.
Okay, thank you, President Walt. Good evening again, trustees. So last time we were here, talked about a potential BDR looking to eliminate the NEPF. Over the past days, even just since I submitted some of this information to you, have had some conversations that have convinced me that it is really, really unlikely that the legislature would actually consider that bill. There has been a lot of work over the last 3 years at the state level to improve, refine, and make hopefully some adjustments that will be substantial in lightening the load a bit. And with all of that work just being complete, it very much would likely not be something that would be considered. And so with that, it changes the request a bit. And I mean, ultimately, if we are going to be proposing a bill, we want something that has a chance. And so asking you to ask me to bring something a little bit softer, but something that I think is still impactful and still does some really good things. And so kind of the focus point, one of the things we talked about is the burden on teachers and administrators. So looking at making some modifications to potentially reduce that burden on teachers and administrators, create some stronger incentive alignment, and then something that allows for focused support when it's needed. And I'll explain a little bit more of that as we get into this. But then also focused improvement where desired. So that there is an opportunity for our staff to actually be selective about what it is that potentially could be points of things that they want to work to improve on during a school year. So one of the things that there is still some language that it would be helpful for it to go away. There's something around principal supervisors, and this was added in the last legislative session, that a principal supervisor, so effectively Brandon, must review at least 3% of all evaluations of licensed personnel. There's some nuance to that, but the reality is there's still quite a few that he would be responsible for. So in that process, you have to review all the documentation from the entire evaluation process, conduct interviews with those who are evaluated and the evaluator. If he were to find that it wasn't conducted properly, he then has to complete a review of the evals of all licensed staff that were evaluated by that principal, and then submit a report to NDE by May 15th. There's some parts of that with the timeline that are especially problematic. So just the idea that, let's say there were 20 that he would end up having to review, having conferences with the evaluator, the evaluatee, the person who was evaluated. Sorry, I don't think that's a word. It's just something that it's going to take a lot of time, and then going through all that documentation and all of that sort of thing. So that piece is something that would be helpful. The other part, and this is the more substantial part. So looking to make adjustments to the NEPF for post-probationary educators. Again, one of the goals is trying to create incentives for strong performance. There are some there right now, but I think they certainly could be stronger and more beneficial to our teaching staff that achieve that. Something that allows for more focused support to our new teachers and teachers rated as developing or ineffective. And I just put below that, think MTSS, and just the idea that, you have your tier 1, it's kind of everybody doing their thing. But then tiers 2, tier 3, that we want to be able to offer more time and more support to those who need it. And so that's kind of the idea here. And then something that allows teachers rated as effective or highly effective to focus their efforts for the year on specific areas. So and you'll see a little bit of that, how this is laid out, but the idea being, again, that if you're already in a really good place, maybe you can, instead of having to focus on everything every year, be able to whittle down to what are some things I know specifically that I would like to work on improving. And then also giving some ownership, some ability for teachers to make that choice, so that it can be a little more of a reflective exercise. And again, it's not everyone having to worry about every single standard that is within the NEPF. So here for if a teacher is deemed effective, and I'll go through these to try to explain. There's a couple acronyms under standards that I just want to point out. So within the NEPF, there are kind of two categories of standards. There's instructional practice standards and then professional responsibility standards. That's what IPS and PRS stands for. And so the idea that if you, in the last year, were rated as effective, but on one of the standards you're scored on, you had a 2 or lower, going into this next year, you would have the ability, you've been rated effective, so let's recognize that and allow you to choose one instructional practice standard and one professional responsibility standard you want to focus on. The evaluator would choose one of the instructional practice and one of the professional responsibility standards. However, because there was a 2 or lower score on one of the standards, for the evaluator, they must choose that standard as one of theirs that has to be focused on. Then during the year, there would be one cycle of the evaluation that would have to occur. Under the next one down, under effective, in this case, it'd be effective in scoring 3 or better on all of the standards. And in this case, it's effectively the same as the one above, except that because none of them scored 2 or lower, it's just making the choices. You don't have to worry necessarily about which one you are choosing. The next one down, under the effective rating, if on the previous year's evaluation, it was effective and you got 3 or better on all of the standards, and that was done for 3 consecutive years. 3 consecutive years is not a scientific number. It's kind of arbitrary, and I would say if there's any thoughts on that, very much welcome any thoughts on that. But the idea is if there is some incentive to showing continued excellence in your craft and what you do, that there is some benefit to that. And so here, the idea, you would still have to have the educator would choose one of either the instructional practice or professional responsibility standards. The evaluator would choose one or the other. And then that would be the focus. The benefit of this is that if you had those 3 consecutive years, you'd still be looking for ways to improve yourself, but that the observations would become informal. So you wouldn't have kind of the larger standardized process of what a formal observation looks like under NEPF. So it relieves some burden with that. After 1 year of that, you'd have to come back to the traditional cycle. You'd have to go through the entire process again. But if you, again, were rated effective, you again would get to step away for 1 year and have a little more of an informal year there. The are under highly effective. Oh, and actually, one of the things to note too, sorry. So there's something with, in the beginning of this process, teachers will have to set what are called student learning goals. They're going to be changed to EGGS. So instead of SLG, it's going to be educator growth goals, I think, even though in the language of the NRS, it's growth growth in, I can't remember exactly what it is, but anyway, now they're called eggs instead of SLGs. With the idea is that you would not necessarily have to go through that process to set them. Under highly effective, it's set up in a very similar fashion, except that the number of standards you would need to focus on is reduced even further. So again, there's some incentivization to, if you get to highly effective, you can even focus down more on those standards that you find value in. And then if you have highly effective for 3 consecutive years, and again, that's not scientific, it's just a number, and that could be something for consideration. That's kind of the lightest lift in that regard. So if you get to that point, you as the educator would get to choose one IRS. I have one IRS. You're not choosing the IRS, I'm sorry. It's instructional practice standard or a professional responsibility standard. And similar to under effective, instead of having the kind of traditional formal observation set up with your conferences and that sort of thing, you're just having 2 informal observations during the year for the next 2 years. And then after that 2 years is up, you would return back to the regular cycle. You'd go through the regular evaluation process again. But if you were found highly effective again, then you'd get to go back to those informal observations. And so I know a lot of this is foreign language in some respects, but I think the big idea is trying to differentiate a bit for where our educators who really need support so that they can get more support, so our administrators are not spending basically the same amount of time with highly effective staff who've been rated as highly effective, and maybe a first-year teacher, second-year teacher, one who has been rated as developing still, so that more support can be provided to those folks. So it helps reduce some of that burden. Again, if you get to the higher levels, it reduces some of the burden on our teaching staff, potentially with the process and what they're going through, especially if they can do it for consecutive years. And then, I forgot what the other, yeah. So anyway, it's reducing, the biggest piece of it is it's reducing that burden across the board and allowing resources to be focused to staff that maybe need some extra support, and providing some nice incentives potentially if you can reach that point. So hoping to reduce the burden of the instrument overall, increase the efficiency of the instrument to improve instruction by focused efforts. So again, being able to give more time, our administrators more time to focus and work with staff maybe who need some extra support. And then giving a strong incentive to try to improve instructional practices, and then really recognize those educators that have been consistently strong in their evaluations over time. I don't know if Mr. Carson's or Mr. Bringhurst would like to add anything to this, or if you guys are good. I meant to ask you to come up here, but that's okay.
Brennan Bringhurst, for the record. I would just echo what Superintendent Fueling said, and we really want to be able to focus our efforts on our teachers that need the higher level of support, and some adjustments to the system like this would allow us more flexibility to do that, and that really is in line, as he pointed out, with that MTSS model of how we support students, and really should be the same way that we support staff members as well.
Dan Carstens for the record. In complete agreement. The biggest thing is I relate a lot of this stuff to our PLC process. And if you relate it to the PLC process, it allows us to focus in on certain things. Some things are a little bit more important to get people improved and to get them up to the level that they need to get to, just like our students. We focus in on certain standards that might be a higher priority than others because it gives us more bang for our buck in terms of student learning and in this case, in terms of staff learning.
So with this, again, this is kind of different and maybe not exactly what you're expecting tonight. And I apologize. Some of this changed really just over the last 4 days with some additional information. But the idea would be if you're in agreement with this, we would make the adjustments to the BDR proposal to be in line with what we are talking about here. We will work with LCB to develop the language that would be necessary within NRS so that when the bill is actually presented, it has all the correct NRS and what changes would be there. But conceptually, this is what we are looking at now. And again, I would just say I know some of this isn't familiar language, but if there are any suggestions or clarifications, really happy to hear it. I think in the bigger picture, if there were anything like this, it would be very helpful to our folks. There's definitely some benefit. And if we would make some adjustments, whatever from here, we're still in a really good place. So I would, I'll stop there and just happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and start at the end. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I probably have had more time working with the NEPF than anyone in this room. So I'm actually a really big fan of this differentiated system. We've proposed it a couple times previously, the Teachers and Learning, something similar to Teachers and Learning Council, because we really do want our high-flying educators, highly effective educators, given the opportunities to use the NEPF as a professional growth tool instead of just an evaluation compliance tool, and allowing them to kind of focus on what standards they would like to focus on, I think is great. Effective teachers as well need to be recognized and have a little bit of say, right? Part of our work as educators is to differentiate for our students. We should do the same thing for our instructors. Just a couple of things that I would recommend looking at this. On the effective page, my only recommendation would be, well, two. I think an effective teacher should still participate in the student learning goal / educational growth goal process. Basically, that process is the teacher looks at, assesses their students, they take a look at a particular standard that they know their students need to work on, they assess it over time, and then they measure whether or not the students are actually performing growth at the end. So my recommendation is that an effective teacher would still participate in that process. And I would also just change the language from informal observation to formal observation, only because there's a lot of ambiguity as to what an informal observation is and what a formal observation is, right? Right now, an informal observation could be like a teacher comes into your classroom, or your administrator comes into your classroom, watches it for 5-10 minutes, counts it as an observation, and that's one and done. Whereas a formal observation requires the conferencing process, which I think is really important, especially for an effective teacher who still wants to demonstrate growth and improve their practice. Basically meaning it's not a formal observation unless you have a pre-conference with a teacher and you talk about what you're gonna see in the classroom. You go in and observe the classroom, and then you sit down with the teacher afterwards and actually discuss what happened in the classroom and point out all the great things that you've seen and kind of give them constructive feedback on what they could improve upon. So I would change the language to formal observation and not informal observation, because informal could be just a drive-by That's what we called it, drive-by, right? They go by the classrooms. And then for the highly effective teacher, the only thing I would change, again, formal versus informal. I actually think a highly effective teacher probably already looks at their data, so I don't think we need a mandate that they participate in the SLG or EGG process. I'm good with that saying no necessarily. But I would like it to be for the standards that a highly effective teacher can choose an instructional practice or a professional responsibility standard. We know some great teachers that are great instructionally in the classroom, but maybe they're not great at working in their PLCs, which would be a professional responsibility standard that they need to work on. So for both of those, I would just, well, for all of them, I think it should be one IPS or PRS for going down the board, that they can choose one or the other. But then it kind of gives them ownership of what they really want to focus on to improve. And again, your highly effective teachers know what their weaknesses, I don't even want to call them weaknesses are. They know what areas they're not as strong in and that they want to focus to improve upon. But otherwise, I really think this would be a good way to go, and I would hope that it would get some traction going forward, and kind of finally give a highly effective teacher, I don't want to say a little bit of a reward, but a little bit of a reward, right, for demonstrating great practice in the classroom, that they don't have to go through all the things that they typically have to do right now with 34 standards. Well, there's 10 standards, but 34 indicators. That was a lot of work, right? So it'd be nice for them to be able to narrow down what they want to look at. And that's it for me.
Go ahead. Comment.
There we go. Thank you, Trustee Satuki. Yeah, and we would not have any issue with making those adjustments. Again, this is kind of our best stab at making something that we think would be helpful. So we're happy to include those if that's what the board would like to see.
Question?
I think you guys did a great job in this. I think it's pointing, so it's bringing out some key points, to take under consideration. And I really like the idea of giving strong, recognize strong educators. So to me, you guys did a great job.
Same, I think it's a great job. I like the recognition on those highly effective teachers and the thought process behind like an MTSS system for the ones who need more support. My only question is, if the state is already making efforts to improve and refine this, are they looking for more suggestions? Are you going to come in and they're like, well, we've already got an idea? How are you feeling?
That's a great question. I feel like sometimes there's no desire for suggestions at all. No, I think, this is clearly, there's been a lot of work done on this. I think this approach, instead of the scorched earth approach, probably will lend itself better to conversations and at least having really thoughtful conversations about what currently exists. And I just go back to, I think this is like my economics background, the idea of creating strong incentives that are well aligned with what your intended outcomes are, right? And that's where this really does resonate with me. And I would say, I think to some extent, if we would have stayed with what it was, whatever, if we would eventually develop something ourselves, that's what we would want to do. You'd want to create those kind of incentives. So being able to do it without the scorched earth approach, but within the system itself, I think adds a lot of value to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm definitely in support of this. Thanks for the work.
This is quite a pivot from last time. It's a lot of work that you crunched out in a couple days. I have two questions. If I remember right from last meeting, we're one of only like 4 states in the nation that still holds the standard.
10.
10, okay.
10, and just to clarify, it's 10 that have a statewide evaluation system. That, I mean, every state or every district does evaluations. It's just a matter of if it's something that is the state comes up with and is required across schools, or if it's individual districts, or in some states there's different levels of educational agencies, and sometimes they help with developing evaluations. It can look pretty different, but yeah, it's the just having the statewide system.
Okay. So with this pivot, was this something that you looked into the other ones to kind of mirror what seems to be effective in some of those states that are continuing this program? Or was this kind of a from scratch approach?
Not totally from scratch. There are people who have put some time and thought into this sort of thing. What I'd say is we didn't do necessarily any research. I think there's fundamentally, I know there are fundamentally concerns with the existing structure of NEPF in terms of the burden it puts on staff, and again, how it recognizes staff that are high performing or higher, on the higher end of performing. And so that really was more the focus point, is as much as possible just making these adjustments to allow our higher performing staff to be able to focus a little bit more on how they want to improve themselves, to reduce some of that burden and to create incentives. And so it really was just kind of taking those three pieces and just making adjustments within that.
Thank you. The other thought, this is definitely something I've heard plenty of lack of love for this process from teachers, that to have to just constantly prove that I'm good at my job is exhausting. And so I appreciate the opportunity to lighten the load for them. And then also with the at the district admin level, eliminating the oversight there. Does any part of this, aside from creating less reports or evaluations, does any part of this, like we've lightened the load on the teachers, we've lightened the load on the district staff, is there any lightening that we've done in this to site admin?
Do you guys want to talk to that?
Yes, absolutely. So on the teacher side of things, those that are effective or highly effective, they would have some reduced steps that they have to do in their evaluation process. From the district perspective, the adjustment there is eliminating the requirement for the principal supervisor to audit 3% of evaluations. For the campus administrators, there is quite a shift there, because now those teachers that are effective or highly effective and are in these kind of what we would call off-cycle years. So as we look here at the highly effective, and a teacher who's highly effective for 2 years is in this sort of off-cycle mode where they have 2 informals, or as Trustee Statuki suggested, 1 formal observation. That means that the principal or vice principal doesn't need to do all of the other components of the evaluation process, which will significantly reduce for them the work that they need to do. And I want to emphasize that it's not for the administrators, it's not so much, well, let's take some of the load off. It's so that that time and effort can be spent with those teachers that need a greater level of support. And so, yes, I don't know if I explained that super well, but this does take a significant load off of campus administrators as well, with that intent that the time is then spent on your probationary teachers, your ineffective or developing teachers that need that much higher level of support. Yep.
And just real quick on informal versus formal. Formal observations are defined as a minimum of 30 minutes in the classroom. And one of the things that we would probably suggest is that having an informal observation would be a minimum of 15 minutes. So your minimum amount of time for the principal or the administrator to be in the classroom would be 30 minutes at a minimum. And additionally, in my experience, a lot of times the more powerful conversations come from when I go into a classroom and I observe without them telling me what's going to happen. A lot of those conversations afterwards are extremely powerful. And half the time they say, hey, could you come in again? I want to show you this other thing. So there's some power to informal observations. The burden that would come off of that is the questions beforehand, and the required questions afterwards. That is a significant time allocation for an administrator and for a teacher. And a lot of the highly effective teachers, when they come down and do those conferences, they come down prepared. They spent, I don't know how many hours getting things ready just so that they can prove again, whether they're going through an evaluation or not. They're going to bring stuff and they're going to defend their stance of, yep, this is still this. So there's a lot of work that goes into that besides just the half hour before and the half hour afterwards. So that's why we kind of talked about the informal component versus the formal.
Because I know this has to be submitted by the 1st, I will just add my voice to, I support keeping informal in there.
I was just going to clarify that the required minutes are only 20 minutes and there are no required questions. There are suggested questions that the state provides, but there aren't required questions that anyone has to answer for that observation. But I really want to, like, again, to your point, it's really about kind of that post-conference or post-observation conference that I think is critical. And right now, unless we define it or it's clearly defined what that observation requires, the conferencing where you're actually sitting down and talking to the teacher about what practice was happening is critical. Because right now, informal means there are no required conferences. So I just want to make sure that that would be clarified in any kind of legislation put forth.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, you would like that language in the BDR? Because if we were going to make a motion on this evening and take action, because it is due by September 1st, I just want clear direction on what the board proposes, to where then our superintendent can either say, yes, I agree, or I don't agree, and then kind of so we know where we're standing. But I do have a question before we go on. But so there was SB 460 in the legislative session of 2025. And so does this align with, because some of those reforms don't take into effect until, 2027. And so does this align with your proposals, or are we trying to negate something that might be going proposed in 2027?
Thank you for the question. So it is interesting. So when you go through the NRS, all the NRS on this, there's several places where it's effective through June 30th, 2026, effective after July 1st, 2027. I think the adjustments we've made here reflect, so within that scoring, they're really only looking, there used to be, as Trustee Stusuki mentioned, used to have to look at every single indicator under every single standard, which was a lot. And here we just have the language as the standards, because now our folks are getting rated just at the standard level, not on every single indicator below the standard. So that's the way we have the language in here, just reflects that. The fact that we have the EGGs in here, even though it says SLG/EG, that reflects the newer language. So I think we're good with as far as covering what the expected adjustments are with this.
And then do you, have you put any feelers out with other superintendents to where, are you going to be a standalone, Or do you feel as though you'll have the backing of other school districts behind you to carry some weight?
I know that there is, I would say at least amongst the rural districts more so. I don't know that I really have had conversations with some of the larger districts. I know that there is some frustration with the old system for sure. There's been districts and staff from some districts have been a part of kind of the rebuild, the fine tuning of this. And so I think in that respect, there's at least hope that this, what is coming will, it'll help streamline the process, I think, and focus the process quite a bit. I think this amps that up another notch. And so just knowing that for them, I mean, if they can go back to their school administrators and their teaching staff and say, hey, Carson is putting this idea out there to kind of differentiate on the evaluation depending on the level, and it could offer some substantial lift some of the work burden off, and do a better job of recognizing staff who are they're being rated well. There's some breaks that happen. I think it would be received pretty positively. I still have to have that conversation with them. If it were to get approved tonight, I'd be having that conversation with them at our meeting next week.
And then if passed this evening as well, I would ask that, we know that BDRs, before they actually get into print, there's revisions, and then, you talk to this lobbyist and you go to this legislator and you try to find, the sponsors and whatever else, and you're getting, it's revised. I would ask that you bring those revisions back to this board. So then we are up to date with all of the different revisions. That is, if it passes this evening, but yes.
Yeah. Thank you, President Walt. Absolutely. One of the things I can guarantee you is whatever the distilled language is, like the NRSE language that this becomes, that is reflected by this, I can guarantee you that will not be the exact language that ends up being passed, because there are many iterations. The hard part will be if we actually got to a point, I think we're guaranteed 2 hearings. If we got to a point that it got past that and ends up getting onto the floor for votes and all that sort of thing, there are things that happen behind the scenes that, like, quite honestly, we could potentially lose control of some of the things that get added or subtracted. So at that point, it would be hard to give you updates, but certainly anything up there up until that point that we will.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add one thing about that? Just because I am a little concerned that the differentiated plan you're submitting, but you're also submitting the part about the evaluation review, which again, I also think is unrealistic and not necessarily easy to do. My concern though is by tacking it together, that if somebody doesn't like one part or somebody doesn't like the other part, then they're just going to negate the whole thing, because there are 2 completely separate ideas. I know that the principal review doesn't go into effect until July 1, 2027, which means the first year that the evals were actually even going to probably be reviewed would be 2027, 2028. So my only concern is that you have 2 very distinct things going on now, and I wouldn't want one part of it to negate the other part moving forward in the legislature.
Thank you, Trustee Stuckey. I think for that reason, it becomes all the more important as we are looking for legislators who might carry this for us, to let them know, because they're going to be a part of those conversations behind the scenes that we aren't necessarily a part of, that, is there a willingness to do amendments, right? That sort of thing. And I think there very much is. As much as I would love to help Brandon out, I think this would actually be more impactful overall. So sorry, Brandon.
I'm sorry, I bypassed Trustee Varner, so I
No,
apologize.
most of my questions I had have been asked by somebody else, but I think what's important to remember is this is a concept, and it is going to be revised, and everybody's got to understand that as it goes through the process, it will be revised probably numerous times. So I'm in support of submitting it and seeing what happens. And because I know, like I said, it's going to be revised to some degree, and hopefully something will come out of this. So I thank you for your work and your ability to pivot quickly from what was originally proposed to what we have before us tonight. So thank you for that.
I do have to ask, so were all of your comments and your suggestions included into Superintendent Fueling's presentation?
Everything except what we talked about right now.
Yeah.
And again, my only outstanding concern is just really defining the difference between formal and informal. One of the things I neglected is informal is not scheduled either. And sometimes a teacher can have a really bad day, then an administrator will go in and observe a classroom. And then if that's the only time they're going in, or you know what I mean, then for it to be a formal observation, it should be scheduled. There should be conferences. The teacher should know in advance that someone's coming, right? I would just really want to make sure that we clarify what an informal observation would include to ensure our teachers are best supported.
So I think if I'm understanding you correctly, there's two components of those observations that you think are very important: scheduling and a post-conference. Pre-conference, not so much, but that, and I think we would all agree, like the drive-by that you talk about is not an effective way to help anybody get better at anything. And so in good practice, a post-conference is something that happens. And so your desire is that post-conference be something that we talk about and define in the definition of what these informals are, if they are indeed anything different than a formal, and that includes scheduling and a post-discussion, post-conference.
When I would even say you could you could call it formal and change what formal means, right? Formal means you have to have a conference afterwards and that it should be scheduled ahead of time so the teacher knows that you're coming.
Okay.
Instead of, right now, it's kind of like that, except now you have to have the pre-conference too, which I agree is not necessarily the best use of time. And then informal would continue to be, sometimes you have 5-10 minutes to walk by and see what's going on and just sit in and talk to hear a little bit of a lesson. And even though you're only in there 10 minutes, you can still use what you see in what the student's working on, and all that is part of evidence for the evaluation. So keeping informal more informal, and maybe changing what we call a formal observation to include at least the post-conference and scheduling it ahead of time and whatever length requirement you'd want it to be.
Do we agree?
Do we agree? We do.
Because this is an action item. And I think the importance of, making sure that we're all on the same page is, I think unity on something like this and having a unanimous vote can speak volumes for something like this, moving forward to the legislature. So I just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. Okay. If there's no further questions, this is an action item. Do I have a motion?
President Walt.
Oh, sorry. Not just yet.
Well, based on the way the conversation went and the matters agendized, I would be happy to help with a motion if anybody would be willing to let me.
So you would, and then we would just say so moved.
If you agree with the motion I make.
Yes, we shall hear you out. Yes, we'll hear you out.
So based on the conversation I heard, I think you're looking for A motion that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees partially approve the 2027 legislative session bill draft request to eliminate the Nevada Education Performance Framework on condition that the BDR will only seek to eliminate or modify portions of the NEPF as discussed and presented, including specifically the more defined definitions of formal and informal.
Sure. All right.
I will second that, or do I
No,
have to
you
wait
would
for
make
you?
the motion. You would just
Oh,
say so moved.
So moved. Right, I'm ahead of myself.
All right, do I have a second? All
I'll
right,
second it.
So we have a motion by trustee Roberts, a second by trustee Varner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
What? Oh, I am so sorry. We have a motion by trustee Roberts. We have a second by trustee Varner. Public comment? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action on selecting a topic for the 2026-2027 Carson City School District Board of Trustees sponsored Great American Essay Contest. This is for possible action and brought to us by Superintendent Fueling.
Good evening again, trustees. Tonight, we are talking about the Great American Essay Contest. So we once a year since, and this started after 9/11 that following year, to have an essay contest at the elementary level, middle school level, high school level, for a topic related to U.S. history, civics, good stuff, the kind of thing I loved as a social studies teacher. And so there's a timeline that's been provided for you just so you can kind of get a sense of what this looks like. So there's a decision that needs to be made about what the actual essay question is. And then we will get that information out to schools soon thereafter. Essays are due back to the district office by October 14th. So there's a decent amount of time before those are due. But then we have judges for each scoring level. And then in the end, kids win prizes and they win money for doing a good job. So what you have then as well is the list of, since the original topic in 2002, every essay topic that has followed since. One of the requests, President Walt and I were talking about this. One of the hard things about this is we often have offered suggested topics to consider for the next year, but our principals have been helpful, tried to be helpful over the years, because sometimes an essay topic might sound amazing for a high school kid, but we're using the same topic for middle school and the same topic for elementary school, right? So trying to be really thoughtful about that. We sent out, I think it was 10 or 12 sample topics to our principals across all the sites to have them kind of give some input on which ones they thought really worked for what they, certainly for their level of kids, but seemingly for all levels of kids. And so there's 6 examples that are in your packet that were kind of the highest vote getters. This in no way is saying you have to use these, but it was the hope is really like you have some good options, which is great. But then otherwise to give you a sense of the type of questions that kind of can maybe translate a little better across all the grade levels. So, but there are certainly 6 good ones to consider here. And so tonight, I think the hope is that we could select an essay topic this evening amongst you, and then we can let the madness begin.
I thank you for bringing this to the principals as well, because I think every meeting, we normally do have a principal or two in the audience going, no, that one is not going to, sit well with elementary or, so I appreciate that. And then, like Superintendent Fueling said, by no means does one of these 6 have to be our choice. However, I think some of them were very strong. And knowing that they were suggested by elementary, middle, and high school principals, I think it is a good starting point. So at this time then, what we would do is if anybody has one that they're extremely passionate about and think that it needs to be, please speak up now. Yes.
Well, I just really like number 2 because it's about being nice to people, right? And I think that I think our youngest students and our oldest students could learn a valuable lesson from it and be able to answer the question really well, right? Why we need to be nice to each other and listen to each other.
That was my strong one too.
So I liked all of them, but I thought we could modify number 6. And this is my suggestion. To read, imagine writing a letter to an American leader from the past, such as founder, reformer, or civic figure. What questions would you ask them about the use of AI in the schools?
Could you repeat the last part of that, please?
The last part would be, what questions would you ask them about the use of AI in the classrooms?
My only concern about that is if this is elementary, like I don't know how well a first grader or second grader would be able to tackle that question or really understand how it would apply to them. High school definitely, but
Thank you. Trustee Roberts?
I picked out my top 3, which were number 1, number 4, and number 6, but I'm happy with all of them.
Okay. Trustee, I'm taking a tally. Trustee Clapham?
I like 6. I'm not quite sure how I would change it if I did. I have something in mind, but I'm fine with it the way it is. Also.
Okay. Trustee Peterson?
My hesitation on 6, as like I like the idea of writing a letter to a past leader, but what key updates would you give him about life in America? It has the potential to be a very depressing essay, and I don't think that's what we're going for. And then 2 is the one that I do like. However, I would want to add something about what can you do to practice that. So the strong democracy relies on understanding different perspectives. Describe why it is important to listen respectfully to people with views different from your own, and how civil discourse strengthens the community. What can you do to practice that? I just like the forcing them to kind of look inward on themselves, and that they do matter, that even though they're just one person can have an impact.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Hold on. All right. Trustee Marner?
I kind of agree with everyone. All of these, I think, are very good and very appropriate for today's way things are today. I kind of like number 3 because it talks about what young people have shaped the nation's direction and what one issue you believe today's youth should champion, and how can students make a positive impact before they are old enough to vote. So that was the one I kind of liked the best.
Okay, so we have 3 for 2 and 2 for 6 as is, and then 1 for 6 if changed. So I'm going to go with, it looks like 2 definite, right? All right. However, you, Trustee Peterson, you are a change it to, and how civil discourse strengthens a community. I don't like and what can you do to practice that, but how could we wordsmith that to change that? Any ideas, English teacher?
So before we got the support material, and I knew that we were going to be addressing this, I had gone through and come up with a couple ideas, and one of mine is nearly what number 2 says, but it was that George Washington warned unity requires listening to different points of view in a world full of diverse opinions. Why is civil discourse, the ability to disagree respectfully, essential to maintaining a free society, and how can young people practice it? Which is very nearly what number 2 is saying, but I just really liked that, like, personal ownership portion of it. So
Right.
I don't know how to say it, but
Well, could we just
I like
add,
that
leave number 2 as is, and then just at the end though say, and how can,
what does that look like for you?
how can you, how can you practice this in your daily life, or in your community? How can you practice this in your community? Or how would you change that then in your daily life if you don't want to use community twice in one sentence?
Trustee Walt,
Uh-huh.
if I maybe describe why it is important to listen respectfully to people with views different from your own. How
Yeah, because
I
we'd
don't know,
get rid
how
of
do
that
you
and.
handle that how do you, I'm trying to, like, I'm thinking you could insert it right in the middle there because you could still end with how civil discourse strengthens a society.
How about how can young people practice it?
How can you encourage this in your community? Something like that.
Is
Yeah.
this a separate sentence?
Yeah,
Yes.
just like a little at the
Separate
end.
Okay, so we would leave 2 as is, period.
Yep.
Strengthen community, period. Then how
How can you be a model for your community in civil discourse?
how can you be?
I guess my only concern is if this is aimed at elementary school students also, how familiar are they going to be with civil discourse?
Mm.
And so I don't know if it may be a little bit older than what they're capable of understanding.
You can't. I don't think you can. I think it has to be one universal question. Yes.
We can also add in the clarifier, like the version that I'd written, it was wise civil discourse, comma, the ability to disagree respectfully, comma, essential to maintaining. So even if we needed to add in that definer.
It in the last sentence? You could.
Maybe. And
Yeah, you
how
can.
civil
How can
discourse,
you?
comma, the ability to respectfully disagree, comma. strengthen
I'd separate
community.
it by dashes.
Okay.
Civil discourse, dash. The ability to dash, right? Yeah, strengthens a community.
Okay, so Michelle, read that as your last sentence, if we kept 2 the same.
The strong democracy relies on understanding different perspectives. Describe why it is important to listen respectfully to people with views different from your own, and how civil discourse, dash, the ability to disagree respectfully, dash, strengthens a community, period. And then
How
know
can
where
you
we landed
model?
with the practicing that.
Well, we said, how can you? Yeah,
How can you model that
or how can, what did you say?
with your peers?
Go ahead.
You encourage and be an example of this in, oh yeah,
To others. There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
All right, perfect. So how,
Did you get that, Renee?
no. That is a big no, because okay, so what I have is a strong democracy relies on understanding different perspectives. Describe why it is important to listen respectfully to people with views different from your own. How civil discourse dash, fill in the blank, please.
The ability to disagree respectfully, dash.
Right. The ability to disagree respectfully dash strengthens a community. And Trustee Roberts, what was your last sentence?
How can you encourage and be an example of this to others?
How can you encourage and be an example of this to others?
Period.
Period.
It's actually a question.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
a
a
question.
question. All right. So on that note, do I have a motion?
While we're doing quick edits, just grammatically, the comment after views, like between views and different, I'll defer to Statuki, but that feels misplaced to me, like it's not necessary.
Yeah, you don't,
No
you
comment.
don't need the commas before or after it.
Okay.
And actually, if you take the commas out there, instead of using dashes, you could put commas around this, right? You just, you have to have different punctuation. So you could say, to people with views different from your own, and how civil discourse, comma, the ability to blah, 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 comma, strengthens a community.
Okay. And Miss Renee, did you get that?
I am writing feverishly over here, but yes.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
I moved
Just need to say so, right?
What?
If it's going to be number 2, it would be a motion to approve number 2 as presented with the modifications made by the trustees. I think that's it.
All right, here we go. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve option number 2 with the edits made by the board as the topic for the 2026-2027 board-sponsored Great American Essay Contest.
And do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, so I have a motion by Trustee Roberts, second by Trustee Peterson. Public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 12. This is approval of the consent agenda for for possible action. Did you all have time to review the consent agenda? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second? All right, so we have a motion by Trustee Varner, a second by Trustee Statuki. Do I have public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 13. This is information items. This is for discussion only. Do we have any questions or discussion on informational items within the agenda? None? Closing agenda item number 13, moving on to agenda item number 14. This is a request for future agenda topics. Does anybody have any future agenda topics? Will we be putting on policy 200 on the next agenda? Right. Right, okay. So we will be putting in agenda, on the agenda, policies 200 to 211, certain ones, not all of them. And so we will get those to you as well. Any others? Seeing none, that moves us to agenda item number 15. Meeting is adjourned.